I stood in that courtroom and watched my own parents sit beside my sister and my husband, former husband, their faces hard with righteal determination. My mother wouldn't even look at me. My father's jaw was set like stone. And my sister, Rachel, she sat there with her hand wrapped around Daniel's, cradling her swollen belly with the other, looking at me like I was the villain in this story. The judge hadn't spoken yet. The air was thick, suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, feel the sweat gathering at the back of my neck despite the air conditioning. This was my family. These were the people who were supposed to love me, protect me, stand by me. And now they were here, in a court of law, demanding that I pay child support for the baby my husband had fathered with my sister. Emma has the means, my father's lawyer said, his voice echoing off the wood-paneled walls. She earns considerably more than either Rachel or Daniel. The child deserves financial stability, and Emma, as the former spouse, has a moral and legal obligation to contribute. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, my face calm. My lawyer, Patricia, a sharp woman in her 50s with steel-grey hair and even sharper eyes, sat beside me, equally composed. We'd prepared for this. We'd prepared for all of it. Rachel leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying across the courtroom with practiced vulnerability. Your Honor, I know this looks bad. I know what people think of me. But that baby, she touched her stomach, that baby didn't ask for any of this. Emma's angry, I understand that. But taking it out on an innocent child, that's not who she is. That's not who any of us are. My mother nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My father's expression remained stern, righteous. Daniel looked down at his shoes, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across his face. Shame. Regret. It didn't matter anymore. The judge, an older woman with reading glasses perched on her nose, looked over the documents in front of her, then looked at me. Mrs. Harrington, or, I suppose, Miss Carter now, do you have anything you'd like to say before we proceed? I stood slowly. Patricia touched my arm gently, a silent reminder to stay calm, stay focused. I smoothed down my blazer, took a breath, and met the judge's eyes. Your Honor, I said, my voice steady, I don't need to prove my innocence. I just need to prove they're guilty too. The courtroom went silent. Rachel's face paled. Daniel's head snapped up. My father shifted in his seat, and my mother's hand froze mid-dab. The lawyer on their side frowned, confused. The judge raised an eyebrow. Please continue, Ms. Carter. I smiled. Not a big smile. Not cruel. Just enough to let them know I knew. I knew everything. And that's when I began to speak. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the end for this. It started 8 months ago. 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days, to be exact. I remember because it was the night of our 5th wedding anniversary. Daniel and I had planned a quiet dinner at home, nothing extravagant, just us, some wine, a homemade meal. He'd been working late a lot, stressed about a project at work, also he said. I wanted to do something special, something to remind him that we were still us, still solid, still in love. I left work early that day. I stopped by the market, picked up fresh salmon, his favorite, and a bottle of the red wine we'd had on our honeymoon. I even bought candles, the expensive kind that smell like sandalwood and vanilla. I remember feeling excited, almost giddy, as I drove home. I was thinking about how surprised he'd be, how we'd laugh over dinner, how maybe, just maybe, we'd start talking about the future again. About kids. About the life we'd always said we wanted. I pulled into the driveway and noticed Rachel's car parked on the street. That wasn't unusual. Rachel lived about 20 minutes away, and she'd drop by sometimes, unannounced, usually looking for money or company or both. She was my younger sister, 27 to my 32, and she'd always been the chaotic one. The one who couldn't hold down a job, couldn't keep a relationship, couldn't seem to get her life together. And I, the responsible older sister, always helped. Always. I walked into the house with my arms full of groceries, calling out, Daniel? Rachel? Anyone home? Silence. I set the bags down in the kitchen, frowning. Rachel's car was outside, so she had to be here. Maybe they were in the backyard. I walked through the living room, past the couch where Daniel's jacket was tossed carelessly, past the coffee table with 2 empty wine glasses sitting side by side. 2 glasses. I stopped. Stared at them. Why would there be 2 glasses? That's when I heard it. A sound from upstairs. Faint, muffled. A laugh. Rachel's laugh. And then, lower, deeper, Daniel's voice. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. I stood there, frozen, my mind racing through 1,000 explanations that made sense, that were innocent, that didn't mean what my gut was screaming at me they meant. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling like I was walking through water. The sounds grew clearer. Voices. Movement. I reached the top of the stairs and saw that our bedroom door was half open. I should have turned around. I should have left, called a friend, done anything other than what I did next. But I didn't. I pushed the door open. And I saw them. My husband. My sister. In my bed. Rachel saw me first. Her eyes went wide, her mouth opened in a shocked little O, and she scrambled to pull the sheets up over herself. Daniel turned, his face going from confusion to horror in the span of a heartbeat. "Emma," he said, his voice strangled. "Emma, wait." I didn't wait. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw things. I just stood there, staring, my brain trying and failing to process what I was seeing. The room smelled like sweat and perfume, Rachel's perfume, the cheap kind she always wore. The candles I'd bought were still in the bag downstairs. The salmon was still in the fridge. And my husband was in bed with my sister. "I'm sorry," Rachel said, her voice small and shaking. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, get out," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was cold, flat, empty. "Emma, please, let me explain," Daniel started. "Get out." They scrambled. Rachel grabbed her clothes, tripping over herself as she tried to get dressed. Daniel reached for me, tried to touch my arm, and I stepped back like he was poison. They left, stumbling down the stairs, and I heard the front door slam. Then I was alone. I stood in that bedroom for I don't know how long. Minutes. Hours. Eventually, I walked downstairs, poured myself a glass of wine, just one of the 2 glasses sitting on the coffee table, and I sat on the couch. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, sipping wine, staring at nothing. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Rachel just called. She's very upset. What did you do to her?" I stared at that message for a long time. What did I do to her? Not what happened, not "Are you okay?" Not "We need to talk." What did I do to her? I didn't respond. I finished my wine, went upstairs, stripped the bed, threw the sheets in the trash, and locked the bedroom door. Then I went to the guest room and lay down, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the world to make sense again. It never did. The next morning, Daniel came back. I heard his key in the lock, heard him call my name. I stayed in the guest room, the door locked. He knocked, soft at first, then harder. "Emma, please. We need to talk. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But please, just let me explain." I didn't answer. "Emma, I love you. What happened, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Please." I got up, walked to the door, and spoke through it, my voice calm. "Pack your things and get out. I'll file for divorce on Monday. Emma, if you're not gone in an hour, I'm calling the police." He left. I heard him moving around downstairs, heard drawers opening and closing, heard the front door shut. Then silence again. I filed for divorce that Monday. Patricia, my lawyer, was someone I knew through work, a friend of a friend who specialized in family law. When I told her what happened, she didn't gasp or offer sympathy. She just nodded, took notes, and said, "We'll make sure you get everything you're entitled to." But it wasn't about the money or the house or any of that. It was about the principle. It was about the fact that the 2 people who were supposed to be closest to me, who were supposed to love me, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I'd sign the papers, move on, rebuild my life. I was naive. 3 weeks later, Rachel called me. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Emma," she said, her voice thick with tears. "Emma, I need to talk to you." "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Please. Just hear me out. I'm pregnant." I went cold all over. "Congratulations," I said, my voice like ice. "It's Daniel's." I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I sat down on the couch, the same couch where I'd found those 2 wine glasses, and I tried to breathe. She called back. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. Finally, she left a voicemail. "Emma, please. I know you hate me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm scared. I don't have money. I don't have a job. Daniel doesn't have anything either. Mom and Dad are furious with both of us, but they're helping, and I need help too. You're my sister. You've always taken care of me. Please. I'm begging you." I deleted the voicemail. I blocked her number. I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks after that, my mother showed up at my door. I opened it, saw her standing there with her arms crossed, her face hard, and I knew this wasn't going to be pleasant. "We need to talk," she said. "I don't have anything to say to you," I replied. "Well, I have plenty to say to you," she snapped. "Are you really going to abandon your sister when she needs you most?" I stared at her. Abandon her? She slept with my husband. That was a mistake. People make mistakes, Emma. You're not perfect either. I felt something crack inside me. Something I'd been holding together with sheer willpower. "Get off my property. Emma, get off my property." She left, but not before telling me I was selfish, cruel, and heartless. I closed the door, locked it, and finally, I let myself cry. But crying didn't fix anything. It didn't change the fact that my family had chosen Rachel over me. It didn't change the fact that I was alone. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Daniel didn't contest it. He signed the papers, and that was that. I got the house, the car, most of our savings. He got his freedom and a baby on the way with my sister. I thought I could move on. I thought I could rebuild. But then, 4 months after the divorce, I got a letter in the mail. A legal notice. My parents, acting on behalf of Rachel and Daniel, were suing me for child support. I read that letter 3 times, each time thinking I must be misunderstanding. But no. It was clear. They were claiming that because I had been married to Daniel at the time of conception, which was technically true, though we were separated, I had a legal and moral obligation to contribute to the financial support of the child. It was insane. It was cruel. And it was happening. That's when I called Patricia. I told her everything, my voice shaking with rage. She listened, silent, and then she said, "Emma, this is going to get ugly. But if you're willing to fight, I'll fight with you." "I'm willing," I said. "Good. Because I have a feeling there's more to this story than they're letting on." She was right. Patricia started digging. She hired a private investigator, pulled financial records, interviewed witnesses. And what we found, was a web of lies, manipulation, and greed that went so much deeper than I ever could have imagined. It turned out Rachel's pregnancy wasn't an accident. It was planned. She'd been trying to get pregnant for months, deliberately, because she knew that if she had Daniel's baby, she could manipulate the situation. She could get money from me, from my parents, from anyone who felt sorry for her. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that my parents were in on it. They'd known. They'd known Rachel was sleeping with Daniel before I found out. They'd encouraged it. Because in their eyes, Rachel was the one who needed help, who needed stability, who needed rescuing. And I was the successful one, the one who had it all together, the one who didn't need their support. So they sacrificed me. They chose her. And they did it without a second thought. Patricia uncovered emails between my mother and Rachel, discussing how to handle Emma when the truth came out. She found bank statements showing my father had been giving Rachel money for months, long before she got pregnant. She even found text messages between Rachel and Daniel, planning the whole thing, joking about how Emma will never see it coming. When Patricia showed me all of this, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt numb. And then, slowly, that numbness turned into something else. Something cold and sharp and focused. "What do you want to do?" Patricia asked me. I looked at her. "I want to destroy them." She smiled. "Then let's go to court." So here I am. Standing in this courtroom, with my family on one side and the truth on the other. The judge is waiting for me to continue. Rachel looks like she's about to be sick. Daniel won't meet my eyes. My parents are starting to realize that something is very, very wrong. I reached into the folder Patricia handed me and pulled out the first document. "Your Honor," I said, "I'd like to submit evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress." The judge took the document, her expression unreadable. She scanned it, her eyes narrowing. Then she looked up at Rachel, at my parents, at Daniel. "Is this true?" she asked. Rachel opened her mouth, closed it. My father stood up. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding. Sit down, Mr. Carter," the judge said, her voice sharp. Saturday. The judge looked back at me. "Ms. Carter, please present your evidence." And so I did. I started with the emails. I read them aloud, my voice steady, every word a nail in their coffin. My mother's email to Rachel: "Don't worry about Emma. She'll get over it. She always does. Focus on yourself and the baby." Rachel's response: "I know. She's so predictable. This is going to work out perfectly." I showed the bank statements. My father had given Rachel over $15,000 in the 6 months leading up to her pregnancy. Payments labeled as loans, but there was no record of repayment, no signed agreement. Just money, flowing from his account to hers. I showed the text messages between Rachel and Daniel. The ones where they talked about me like I was an obstacle, a problem to be solved. "She's going to be pissed," Daniel had written. Rachel's response: "Let her be. She'll come around eventually. She always helps me." And then, the final piece. The one that made even the judge's composed expression crack. A recording. Patricia had gotten it from a friend of Rachel's, someone who'd grown disgusted with what Rachel was doing and decided to come forward. It was a conversation between Rachel and my mother, recorded on Rachel's phone about 2 months ago. I played it for the courtroom. Rachel's voice, bright and almost cheerful: "Mom, what if Emma doesn't pay? What if she just refuses?" My mother's voice, cold and calculating: "She will. She has to. We'll take her to court, make it public, make her look like the villain. She won't be able to handle the humiliation. She'll pay just to make it go away." Rachel, laughing: "You really think so?" My mother: "I know so. Emma's always been weak. She'll fold." The recording ended. The courtroom was silent. I could hear someone in the back shifting in their seat, the sound of paper rustling. Rachel was crying now, her face in her hands. Daniel looked like he wanted to disappear. My mother's face was white, her lips pressed into a thin line. My father just stared at the floor. The judge set the recording device down and looked at Rachel's lawyer. "Do you have anything to say in your client's defense?" The lawyer, a young man who'd probably never expected to be in a case like this, stammered: "Your Honor, I was not aware of any of this. My clients led me to believe. I'm sure they did," the judge said curtly. She turned to my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, you should be ashamed of yourselves." My mother started to speak, but the judge held up a hand. "I don't want to hear it. What you've done here is not only morally reprehensible, it's legally actionable. Ms. Carter," she looked at me, "I'm dismissing this case with prejudice. Not only will you not be required to pay child support, but I'm awarding you damages for emotional distress and legal fees. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for potential fraud charges." Rachel let out a sob. My father put his head in his hands. Daniel just sat there, frozen. The judge banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. I stood there for a moment, letting it all sink in. Patricia squeezed my arm. You did it, she said quietly. I nodded. I did. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like an ending. A necessary one, but an ending all the same. As we walked out of the courtroom, Rachel tried to approach me. Emma, please, I held up a hand. Don't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You didn't think I'd find out. You didn't think I'd fight back. But I did. And now you have to live with what you've done. She stood there, tears streaming down her face, and I walked past her. My parents were waiting in the hallway, both of them looking older, smaller somehow. My father stepped forward. Emma, we made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But you're still our daughter. We still love you. I looked at him. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the version of me that's useful to you. But the real me? You don't even know her. My mother reached for me. Please, don't do this. Don't cut us out of your life. I'm not cutting you out, I said. You did that yourselves. And then I left. I walked out of that courthouse with Patricia beside me, and I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were strange. The story got out, of course. Small town, big scandal. People talked. Some were supportive, some were judgmental, some just wanted the gossip. I stopped caring what any of them thought. Rachel had the baby 3 months later. A girl. I heard about it through a mutual acquaintance. I didn't reach out. I didn't send a card or a gift or anything. That child wasn't my responsibility, wasn't my family. She was the product of a betrayal, and while I didn't wish her harm, I didn't want her in my life either. Daniel tried to contact me a few times. Emails, mostly, long rambling messages about how sorry he was, how he'd made a mistake, how he wanted to make things right. I deleted them all without reading past the first few lines. My parents sent a letter. A physical letter, handwritten by my mother. It was full of apologies, explanations, justifications. We thought we were doing what was best for the family. We didn't realize how much we were hurting you. Please forgive us. I burned it. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't affected by all of it. The betrayal, the lies, the loss of my family, it all left scars. I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Reeves who didn't judge, didn't push, just listened. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a small condo downtown, something clean and modern and entirely mine. I threw myself into work, got a promotion, started traveling. I made new friends, joined a book club, took up yoga. I built a new life, piece by piece. And then, about a year after the trial, I met someone. His name was Michael. He was a photographer, kind and funny and completely unconnected to my past. We met at a coffee shop, cliché, I know, and we started talking, and somehow, hours passed without me noticing. He didn't know about the trial, about Rachel or Daniel or any of it. And I didn't tell him. Not at first. I wanted to be just Emma with him, not Emma the victim or Emma the survivor. Just Emma. But eventually, I did tell him. We were sitting on his couch, a rainy Saturday afternoon, and he asked me about my family. I'd been dodging the question for weeks, but I was tired of hiding. So I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his face serious. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm sorry that happened to you. Not I can't believe they did that, not how could they, just I'm sorry. Simple, honest, compassionate. Thank you, I said. He took my hand. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly strong. And I'm glad you're here. I started crying then. Not sad tears, but something else. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. He held me while I cried, and I felt, for the first time in a long time, like maybe I was going to be okay. 2 years later, Michael and I got married. Small ceremony, just close friends, no family on my side. I didn't miss them. I'd built a new family, one based on choice and love and mutual respect. We bought a house together, A beautiful old Victorian with a garden. We talked about kids, about the future, about all the things I'd once thought I'd have with Daniel. But this was different. This was real. I still think about Rachel sometimes. About my parents. About Daniel and the life I thought I'd have. But I don't grieve for it anymore. That life wasn't real. It was built on lies and manipulation and conditional love. This life, the one I have now, is real. It's mine. And no one can take it from me. Last month, I got a message on social media from Rachel. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me click. Emma, it said, I know I have no right to ask, but I need to tell you something. I left Daniel. He was cheating on me. With someone else. I finally understand how you must have felt. I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed you to know. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sad for her. But mostly, I felt nothing. She was a stranger to me now, a ghost from a past life. I didn't respond. I closed the message, blocked her, and went back to my life. Because here's the thing I learned, you can't build a future on people who didn't value your past. You can't heal from wounds inflicted by people who never acknowledged the knife. And you can't forgive someone who isn't truly sorry, who only feels regret because they finally experienced the consequences of their actions. So I let them go. All of them. And in doing so, I found something I'd lost that night when I walked in and found them together, myself. Standing in that courtroom, presenting the evidence, watching their faces crumble. That wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. It was about refusing to be a victim, refusing to let them rewrite the story, refusing to accept their version of reality where I was the villain and they were the victims. I spoke my truth. I presented the facts. And I walked away with my dignity intact. That's not revenge. That's justice. And sometimes, justice is the best revenge of all. I'm happy now. Genuinely happy. I have a husband who loves me, friends who support me, a career I'm proud of, a home that's truly mine. I have a life that's built on honesty and respect and love. And I did it all without them. So when people ask me if I regret cutting off my family, if I ever think about reconciling, I tell them the truth. No. Not even a little bit. Because they taught me the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Who stands by you. Who loves you not because they have to, but because they choose to. And the family I've chosen? They're everything. The night after the trial, I went home to my new condo, poured myself a glass of wine, and stood on the balcony looking out at the city. The lights were beautiful, thousands of tiny stars scattered across the darkness. I felt lighter than I had in months, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even realize was there until it was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia, "You did good today. I'm proud of you." I smiled and texted back, "Thank you. For everything." She responded immediately, "Anytime." That's what friends are for. Friends. Not just my lawyer, but my friend. That's what I had now. Real relationships, built on mutual respect and genuine care. I finished my wine and went inside. Tomorrow, I'd start fresh. Tomorrow, I'd keep building this new life. Tomorrow, I'd keep moving forward. But tonight, I just let myself feel victorious. Because I'd stood in that courtroom, faced the people who'd hurt me most, and I'd won. Not because I was cruel or vengeful, but because I'd refused to let them destroy me. I'd refused to be silent. I'd refused to accept their lies. I'd fought back. And I'd won. And that, more than anything else, was what mattered. In the months after the trial, I started getting messages from other people. Women, mostly, who'd heard about what happened and reached out to tell me their own stories. Stories of betrayal, of family members who'd sided with the wrong person, of fighting back against systems and people who tried to make them the villain. I read every message. I responded to as many as I could. And I realized something. My story wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who'd ever been betrayed, gaslit, or blamed for someone else's actions. It was about everyone who'd ever had to stand up and say, "No. This is wrong." And I won't accept it. So I started speaking. I did interviews, wrote articles, even gave a few talks. I told my story not because I wanted attention or sympathy, but because I wanted other people to know they weren't alone. That they could fight back. That they could win. And the response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages, emails, letters. People thanking me, telling me I'd inspired them, asking for advice. I didn't have all the answers. I still don't. But I had my story. And if sharing it helped even one person stand up for themselves, then it was worth it. One message in particular stood out. It was from a woman named Sarah, who'd been in a similar situation. Her husband had cheated with her best friend, and both families had sided against her. I felt so alone, she wrote. I thought I was crazy. But hearing your story made me realize I'm not. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. I wrote back, you're not alone. And you're not crazy. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. You deserve better. She responded, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Thank you. That's when I knew I'd done the right thing. Not just in fighting back, but in sharing what happened. Because silence protects abusers. Silence protects the people who hurt us. And I refused to be silent. Now, sitting here in my home, with my husband in the next room and my dog curled up at my feet, I can honestly say I'm at peace. The anger is gone. The hurt has faded. What's left is just clarity. I see my old life for what it was, a beautiful lie. And I see my new life for what it is, a messy, imperfect, wonderful truth. I don't know what Rachel's doing now. I don't know if my parents ever truly understood what they did, or if they just resent me for exposing them. I don't know if Daniel ever changed, or if he's still out there, hurting people. And honestly, I don't care. They're not my problem anymore. They're not my responsibility. They're just people I used to know. And I'm okay with that. Because I've learned that you can't save people who don't want to be saved. You can't fix people who don't think they're broken. And you can't make people love you the way you deserve to be loved. All you can do is love yourself. Stand up for yourself. And walk away from people who don't see your worth. So that's what I did. And I've never looked back. The courtroom that day wasn't just about winning a case. It was about reclaiming my narrative, my power, my life. It was about looking the people who'd hurt me in the eye and saying, you don't get to do this to me. Not anymore. And they didn't. They tried. They played the victim, they manipulated, they lied. But in the end, the truth came out. And the truth was stronger than all their lies combined. That's what I want people to understand. The truth is powerful. It's scary, it's uncomfortable, it can be brutal. But it's also liberating. Because once you stop hiding from it, once you stop making excuses or pretending things are okay when they're not, you can finally start to heal. I healed. Slowly, painfully, but I healed. And now, I'm not just surviving. I'm thriving. So when I stood in that courtroom and said, I don't need to prove my innocence, I just need to prove they're guilty too, I wasn't being vindictive. I was being honest. Because the truth was, I was innocent. I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd been a good wife, a good sister, a good daughter. And they'd betrayed me anyway. But they were guilty. Guilty of lying, of manipulating, of putting their own selfish desires above everything else. And in the end, that's what mattered. The judge saw it. The evidence proved it. And justice was served. Not the kind of justice that feels good in the moment, like revenge, but the kind that lets you sleep at night, knowing you did the right thing. That's the justice I fought for. And that's the justice I got. Looking back now, I can see how every moment led to that courtroom. Every betrayal, every lie, every moment of pain, it all built up to that one moment where I finally stood up and said, enough. And it was enough. I didn't need them to apologize. I didn't need them to change. I just needed them to face the consequences of their actions. And they did. So if you're reading this, if you're in a situation where you feel betrayed, manipulated, or blamed for something that isn't your fault, know this: you have power. You have a voice. And you have the right to use it. Don't let anyone silence you. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're the problem when you're not. Stand up. Speak out. Fight back. Because you deserve better. You deserve the truth. And you deserve justice. And if no one else will give it to you, then give it to yourself. That's what I did. And it changed everything.